I'm Nick. I work on TokenGate. I work closely with the Crypto Oasis team here in Dubai, and we also have a big ecosystem in Switzerland.
Yeah, so just a few words about myself. Hi, I'm Yasmin. I just turned 18. I grew up here in the Middle East. I'm a pure UAE product, completely biased. I'm a second year undergrad student, and I fell down the crypto rabbit hole last year. And I think we can say I fell pretty deep into it. I started at Nansen as a research analyst, was mostly focusing on DeFi and NFTs, and then started exploring other subsectors within crypto, so DAOs, gaming. Then I co-founded the first gaming guild here in the Middle East.
Can you explain to the audience what a gaming guild is?
Absolutely, so it's like an association of gamers, and we provide lended assets to them so they can progress in the games, and we share the profits.
So for people who don't know anything in gaming, if you combine it with crypto, you make money while gaming. So a guild is like an operation of professional gamers who make money for, as a team.
Absolutely, all that thanks to the blockchain. And more recently, I launched a platform called CryptoKids, which supports the youth in crypto.
Hey guys, I'm Key, and I've been in the blockchain space for 8 years, since 2013. I started to get in because it was new, and there is a philosophy behind it which did strike a lot of chords with me. I quit my education after my 10th grade at the age of 14, started my business, and I had to fight my way through the normalcies or what the standards of the world were. And blockchain showed that I could be different and I could function in this world, be decentralized, and there is a new future that you as an individual can define. And that has been a great journey. I have been part of most of the top crypto brands, running one of the largest blockchain marketing agencies. I've worked with a lot of crypto media, and I launched Forward Protocol, which is bringing blockchain adoption. The end goal is that the industry of blockchain is really big, but it is not as big as a traditional one out there. And the only gap between the two is to simplify it. So I focus on simplifying things as much as I can to make sure every normal person in the rest of the world where the most potential is can come into the blockchain as well.
So what intrigued you about the philosophy of crypto or blockchain, and have we achieved that philosophy, or have we missed the goal?
Okay, so I believe we are in the path to achieve the philosophy, but then there are a lot of distractions, bells and whistles. So in the crypto space right now, people do obsess a lot on the price, speculation, profits, but then the whole crypto was started because we wanted the lack of centralization. We wanted people, communities to come together, create something, and that we believe in, that we value in, and what we value becomes the price. What we value becomes the medium of exchange, and that was the intention. Of course, we do have the ups and downs and deviations, but being a blockchain believer for all my life, I know that we will get there. It's a matter of time.
Yeah. So another controversial topic is the company she worked for is called Nansen, and in the art world, data and price predictions and valuations are something looked down upon. And can you explain exactly what the goal of Nansen is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started at Nansen. I'm not working there anymore, but it was a great experience, and I guess I learned a lot. So what I had in mind when I joined Nansen was really to get access to real-time and accurate data. And since I was just starting my career into crypto, I thought it would be a really unique vantage point. I think the most important thing you have to remember about Nansen is that there's so much noise on the blockchain that you don't necessarily know what to focus on. And Nansen really gives you the tool to find the whales and actually follow where the capital is going. And it saves you a lot of time, when it comes to making investments into NFTs and coins.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is you need to discover which trades are fake and which trades are real, and we need more tools.
And you need to move fast.
Yeah, we need more tools in the industry to have an art curation process, because right now a lot of these projects are community driven, and there's not enough high quality being discovered by the regular art community. So do you have an opinion on how NFTs are misunderstood by the art world, or what, you know, what the missing block is to bring these two communities together?
Okay,
I'll just start.
that's a very good question to ask in the middle of an art congress. But yes, uh, ideally the whole point of NFTs are to help identify something unique, something that is original on its own, and which art truly is. But then it is, as you said, it's a community driven at this point. I believe that the true scope of NFTs comes even more than where art plays a role. It's about any form of identity, any form of documentation, anything in the real world that we want to own, that we want to transmit, that we want to transfer, and that we have to associate ourselves with. That's where NFT comes into play. It has really nothing to do only within the art space. Art, I would see as something like a 3-5% of NFT space, but not 100% like it is right now. But then there is a big gap. Because NFTs are not even speculative in nature. What if you have your passport as an NFT? In fact, the real estate assets in Dubai here are in blockchain as well. So there are so many other forms and uses of NFT. And art is a great one. It's original. But then the question comes back to, what is the true value of something? Are people valuing it because of the art in there, or people valuing it because it's a trend of NFTs that you buy and resell at a later point in time? And I would like to see a market where people evaluate things based on what it truly is, what it truly means, and what they truly believe and value that particular art for, not a technology for. Technology is here to facilitate. It's not a value boosting engine.
I agree, and I think that you might want to take a step back here when you consider NFTs. Before anything else, I can speak to my personal experience when I just fell down the NFT rabbit hole more specifically. The first article that I read was about CryptoPunks. So CryptoPunks, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like the OG NFTs amongst the NFT universe. And to be honest and 100% transparent with you guys, I understood nothing about NFTs. And there were these like fundamental questions that I needed to wrap my head around before I could be like 100% convinced about NFTs. Like, where do they derive their value from? And I also understood that some NFTs were going to zeros, some were going to the moon, obviously, and there were going to be winners and losers. And so I really had to convince myself and be clear in my head on, what utility they were going to add on top of just, digital goods and JPEGs. And then on the art NFTs more specifically, two things. I think the first of all, it's true that art NFTs and Web3 in general have this sort of bottom-top approach. And that's why it's a little bit controversial, because they're just sort of, how do you make sure it's really, it's really relevant and it has really value, it's not just a fad. But the reality is you can't blame the crypto space for being community first. Like, for example, if you consider the tokens, they're self-marketing themselves, right? You don't need a go-to market strategy in the crypto space, because when you have like the early adopters, they're actually going to act as like evangelists, and they're going to market the tokens because they have skin in the game. So I think it's just the nature of the crypto space. And on top of that, it's what constitutes our culture and the crypto culture.
Yeah, I think the dangerous and the cool part of the crypto space is that these things are community driven. And you could see things as why these NFTs have taken off is, for young people, it's more important how many followers they have on Instagram or another platform. And the same importance will come with what NFT collection is associated to that profile. So you sort of build your famousness, or you build your image in a digital world with the collection that's associated with your profiles. And that has not necessarily to do with art, but just with showing off, with gaining monetary value, and it's a very dangerous thing, but at the same time it has proven to empower a lot of young artists in the digital world to make a living with digital art. And what is the goal of your new project that empowers young kids around the UAE?
Yeah, sure. So, amongst other things, one of the reasons why I'm here is whenever I can, I try to shed some light on, the amazing achievements of the young generation within crypto, and try to give them a voice and inspire other kids who are either in crypto or just observants. And basically, I myself, I'm just 18, and what I noticed in the space is that you had builders, so developers, who were actually like building amazing ecosystems on top of layer ones, layer twos. You had those artists, genius, like prodigies, people like kids who were flipping NFTs, who were at the head of DAOs, who are partners in VCs, who are investing actually within either art or beyond. And it was like nobody's giving them a voice. And I found that there was very little media coverage and also almost very little literature that was covering that. So my first reaction was, why don't we give them a voice? And that's what I try to do through a series of podcasts where I interviewed them individually, gather their thoughts, and sort of marked our presence. And then beyond that, we sort of launched a movement that went quite viral on Twitter, and we really wanted to sort of we really wanted other kids to be like, hey, I'm also here, and really connect them and unite those disparate forces. The next step, I guess, would be our hackathon. We're gonna have a hackathon very soon, and in line with what I just said.
And what's a hackathon?
Yeah, sure. So a hackathon, I'm gonna explain it like in simple words, and then I'm also gonna explain.
Just simple words.
Yeah, so it's like this 2, 3, 4. By the way, my first hackathon was at Nansen, and so it's a 2, 3, 4 days event. It's a very short event during which coders, hackers, developers just gather and start working intensely on projects. And at the end of the event, you have to ship. So it's basically building and shipping. You have to ship maybe software or something. And I remember my first hackathon was at Nansen, and I remember the energy, and I saw my teammates like more than my own family for 2-3 days, and we just like get on and get off calls every 2-3 hours, and it was an amazing energy, and we actually built like this NFT price estimator, and so yeah, that's I think hackathons are really important in this space. They have this sort of symbolic importance, because you see these sort of shorter cycles where founders get really successful and then they want to give back to the kids. And one of the ways they give back to the kids is by providing them with the resources to also succeed. So yeah, that's what we're gonna try to achieve. And I don't know if it's gonna be a success, but I'm doing my best and putting my best foot forward.
With your energy, I'm sure it's going to be a success. Regarding integrity, I think it's an important topic for the space, and you were sharing a subject about brands coming to you, and what is your goal or your vision for people to build successful projects in 100 years and not just in 3 months?
I look at the same fundamentals that we always have looked at before the crypto space, because crypto is a tool, it is not a means to an end. So I look at whether a business has real resources, a revenue, a business model that can build and sustain, something that has a purpose, not in the next 3 months. Because a lot of things that's created in the crypto space, one bear cycle, the moment the market goes down once and comes back, they don't have a place in there. And that's primarily because the primary way they derive the funds to function is from the tokens itself, by selling it and speculating on it. So if they can actually build a utility, a function through which they are earning revenue, and that revenue is funding them for them to grow, then the markets can go down, the whole crypto space can disappear, but then they have a revenue and they have a utility and they'll function. So I look at brands in the real world with real business experience running, whatever the case may be, but they're doing something that is valuable, that people pay money for and people buy. And if they can come into the blockchain world, they can bring and adopt the philosophy of blockchain. If someone is selling some premium product, they can use an open version of it where others can collaborate, contribute, and they can build on something together. The end goal of blockchain is community working together towards a final output, something that we all share, something we all believe, something we all contribute a piece of. We don't want one person pulling the whole weight, and that's what crypto represents. But right now, what we are doing as a community is shilling things. we as a community take up something which nobody understands, and we only push that out there for the price speculative nature. But if we can shift that, which I believe we will shift, maybe in a matter of a few months, a year, but already bigger brands are coming on, and I really hope that the bigger brands don't adopt to the crypto way of doing things, but then they force us to do things in the way the business have run for hundreds of years. It is on what makes it work. Why would someone be part of a business? Why would someone join something or do something? The value creation is where the monetization is. The whole crypto is built on technology. People buy into the value of the future of the technology. So that value creation is the focus. Whether it's a business, whether it's a blockchain, whether it's an art, what is the value in it? And I obsess on the value. And if it doesn't have value, to me, it's a scam.
And if I can just add on to this, I think we actually, those periods are actually necessary. We need the sort of highs, and then we need the market to just crash, because during those periods, that's when we rebuild. And that's when the core builders are still there and are working hard, to come back to like another high.
Yeah, lovely. How much time do we have?
Oh, we have 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, 15, okay.
I think it will be interesting if we can have some interesting questions from the audience as well on the art, NFTs, and any of those places. But you are the one who has to say that.
Any questions from the audience? No? Yeah,
Everyone except Faisal, because he's anti-NFTs.
No, I think it's really beautiful that Art Dubai is exhibiting some interesting art pieces in the digital world, and you can see there's a question back.
Just stretching your arm.
Just stretching her arm. No, it's really beautiful that they're exhibiting different forms of art, and some are actually more blockchain projects, and about the community coming together, organizing parties, for example, entertaining people like the Crypto Citizens. Other artists are focused on actual art, like Refik Anadol, who works with AI and digital art. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that these digital artists weren't born with NFTs or apes. They existed for almost a decade, and they were doing incredible digital art, but they had no vehicle to sell it. And NFTs is really just a vehicle to provide an ownership authentication. So these digital artists out of the 1950s, 60s, 70s were the kids who didn't make money with their craft. But now the kids of the future have that possibility to provide value in a digital space.
I think that's a very interesting part, because in the past they need to create something and go try to get an agent or an organization who can take it to the market, and they would make up most of the money as a publishers or the agents, and then the artists themselves would not. But right now, if someone has an idea, someone can come up with something, they can just go mint it as an NFT and claim the ownership, sell it. Of course, they still have the challenge of marketing and getting the word out, which is again something that it's like a Craigslist of the ancient time. And we are getting there, but right now there's at least a platform. It's few steps ahead, and the next step is to make it an equal platform where everyone has this opportunity to shine without needing to have a lot of funding to push themselves out there. The value of true value has to shine out there.
And I think that's also because we have social media these days. Like, for example, if you take Twitter, it's a crypto heaven. And the difference with,
Or hell.
yeah, it's like, difference with, I guess, traditional galleries is that, like, the selection process would be more, less transparent, right? Whereas with Twitter, the community gets to decide to whom they want to, give the light by making a tweet go viral. And I think that's why in the crypto space, they highlight the community aspect so much. Like, you'll see community. Like, for example, if you want to apply to a DAO, you'll see the community lead sort of position that's much more, emphasized or like highlighted than marketing. And the reason for that is because for the first time with social media, you have like 100K unaffiliated people who can come together and move the markets in a lasting and significant manner.
Just Just for information, a DAO is an organization that's organized by the community, the so-called decentralized autonomous organization. So instead of applying for, nowadays, instead of applying for Google or UBS or some other big corporation, you apply to be part of this crypto organization, and you organize yourself, decentral, working at home or wherever, and you make your money working in this community. Yes.
Yeah. So I have a question.
I can hear, and that's actually why I love those talks, because you may be sitting in the audience, and thanks to those talks, you have an opportunity to understand what's behind the success of people who are, on the other side. I'm still learning. We're all learning
Can we
together.
have examples?
Yeah, sure, but wait.
I haven't heard about Benjamin. I haven't heard about a lot of the guys.
Yeah, so
Please.
I guess the particularity of the crypto space is that it's open and it's permissionless, and everything is so new that it's relatively flat. So you can come as a kid and not only contribute but actually get rewarded for that. And that's what dozens or like maybe hundreds of young talent have done, and have been really successful. Like some of my friends, it just started as like a sort of friendship, and then we ended up working on projects together. And you actually meet them online. They started anons and then they become really close friends. So some of my friends are really successful artists, other like developers, and thanks to crypto, they've actually made a living out of the time and effort they've put into it, and yeah, that's one of the most beautiful aspects.
I think a really important part of crypto youth is that a lot of young people spend their entire life on Twitter, YouTube, all these platforms, but they're not aware that if they do something that doesn't align with that particular platform, you're deplatformed and essentially your life is over. And for me, that's incredibly important, because in crypto you actually are sovereign and hold those assets, and your time and your energy spent, you can have ownership of this particular asset, and no company can deplatform you and take all your time and effort away from you. And that particular innovation, a lot of people need to wrap their heads around that we are actually all products of Twitter and all products of Instagram, and not users by the definition, is incredibly important to understand that right now these platforms are maybe comfortable, but they're really not healthy for a long-term natively digital community such as youngsters. That if they want to have sustainability in what they earn, you need to have ownership of your digital time and your digital assets.
I think, just to jump in here, I think it's also about a matter of freedom. Like when I started my business, I was 14 years old, and they wouldn't let me open a company in my name because I was a minor, and you couldn't even have a bank account. You couldn't transact in any of these old means, and we were limited, and we needed to depend on someone or take help from someone to do anything. And even as we pass through the journey, we are judged by who we are. You go to an event, they look at you, okay, you're a small kid. I mean, this was 15 years ago. So they look at you as a small kid and then they judge you. But in the crypto space, you can have some profile picture, and they still look at you for who you are, what you're sharing, what you represent, and the information that you put out there. Ethereum was created by a kid, right? And most of the things in the crypto space have come from people who are far younger than we are, and that has happened because they did not have a block for expression. They had the freedom and a non-judgmental place where people were looking at what they were saying rather than who was saying it and how they were saying it. The language, the barriers of geographical limitations, or none of that existed. That's a freedom which I believe you cannot pay a price for. It's way more valuable, and that is what's bringing the innovation of this world. The innovation has always existed. People have been creative. The only difference between now and then was liberation for people to express all of it. I think why it is possible right now is a question that goes back to the core of technology. I don't want to go into the technicalities, but then to give an example, if you have to depend on, let's say you want to buy something in the traditional world, you need to go to a bank, get a loan, and go through the application process, go through all of that. Right now in the crypto space, you can use DeFi, decentralized finance, and there is no one party to it. The people who are providing the funds are a different party who are earning money from that by providing the funds to the market, and the people who are borrowing it and people who are lending it are different parties, and there are people who are trading among that and creating profitability for this entire market. So there are multiple parties coexisting to function, and that's a separate element of the crypto space. But in the same way, you have this art where you can just go create something and you can launch your own NFTs, but they're all interconnected because of the structure of how blockchain works. We might call all of this differently, but at the end of the day, they're all very similar to one another. They're driven by smart contracts, they're token standards. NFTs and tokens are not two different things. You hold them in the same wallet. It's just two different standards of how something is represented. And this openness, where there are not thousands, millions of social, economic, and psychological experiments all happening at the same time. Millions of them. Not everything will succeed. Probably 1% of them might succeed, but then you never had that opportunity to run that many experiments in the scale of $2 trillion market size ever before in the history. If you let people do this and flourish and create their own path, whether the path is right or wrong, we are not the ones to judge. If someone believes in it, they follow it, and that is what is enabling people to do what they couldn't do in the past. In the past, it was few people controlling it. One says this is a rule, and the whole country follows that, and the whole organizations below that follows that. They have to abide by it, otherwise they get kicked out. Well, right now that's not the case. Some country doesn't agree, you move on to a country which does. We have turned the tables around. The community is becoming stronger, and the institutions, organizations, and whatnot, they are becoming an service provider. They provide a better service, we opt and work with them. If they don't, then we move on to a place where there's a better service for us.
Yes.
I just want to back up what you're saying. Me as a mother of five, I'm watching children. They are the ones sort of are giving the world to them, or just dominants, right?
Touch on what she just said.
That's the first gallery, not NFT.
Oh, is it Verse?
Yes. Oh.
I've heard of it. Yeah, so as you said, anybody can join, and it's inclusive not only of age, but also of ethnicity, background, social background. I've been exploring the age angle, but obviously if you take, for example, Axie Infinity, what Jiho and the team has done is basically, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Axie Infinity, but it's an NFT-based game. So basically the community and the gamers actually own the in-game assets, more specifically the Axies. And so it resembles a little bit Pokemon, but this time, there's this ownership element. So you can actually collect the Axies, you can breed them, you can battle them. And what they've done is during the COVID-19 pandemic, large populations in, for example, Southeast Asia, were actually playing the game and derived some part of their income from playing games. So what they've done in terms of inclusiveness is also huge. And that also speaks to what NFT gaming does.
I think what people in the art space will not understand for the next 10 years or so is that NFTs, you could call them a cult, but you could also, each NFT project has their own maybe group or cult, much like we made almost a full circle in the art history where we started out with cave drawings, and each group of these early men had their own specific style of cave drawings, and that was their culture is how do they draw the caves and whatever. And now we've gone through the whole history of art, and we're back where people associate to apes as ugly or beautiful, whatever, or non-art they are. They associate with their ape more than their ethnicity, their nationality, their background, and they're part of this group of apes decentralized around the world. And there's a lot of these different movements of NFTs, and maybe this particular one is for you, maybe old computer art is for you, maybe apes are for you, maybe punks. But it's a totally new social structure more than just, you know, I would so call it art or gaming, or it's a total new socio-economic movement that we're seeing, and I think we'll see much more of.
Maybe we can, touch a little bit on the digital identity in the metaverse, because eventually it would all converge in the metaverse. So for those, I mean, you certainly have heard the buzzword, but for those who are not familiar with metaverse, to me, it's
Can we start with what is
Sure.
the definition of the metaverse, and then you go.
So metaverse is an expression. So the way I say it, the blockchain is the foundation there, and you can own things and you can function in the space of blockchain. But then when you want to shift the technology and the asset to an experience, you move on to the metaverse. So in the metaverse, you exhibit in using VR or whatever format it is. You let people visually see. If you want to go to a particular country or a land or experience something with the audio and whatnot, you do that in a metaverse. So it's an experience that you're selling there, and something that's backed by what is already on the blockchain, like an NFT or whatnot.
Yeah, totally. I think it's the next step, the next evolution of the internet. We've already been living in the metaverse, we just don't realize it. It's basically the web. But now it's just basically going to evolve into something that's more frictionless, more immersive, spatially immersive, and also, just more compelling. And at the same time, it's also not necessarily a what. It can also be considered as like a when, basically the moment where our online activities and spending just surpass our activities in the real world. Like, to me, in less than I think that we're going to be spending at least 20 years of our entire life in the metaverse and online. So it's
Isn't that a little bit sad?
No, I think it's amazing, because to us kids, the metaverse it's not a form of escapism, but you get to be whoever you want to be and build your project, and you can be an avatar, you can be a dog if you want to, you can be a punk, and you can even build your community within these worlds.
I think metaverse is a buzzword that is misunderstood in the last year by everyone. And the metaverse, as both of you said, is essentially just the internet. Just like we all use the internet every day, it's just going to be the next generation of the internet. And for me, it has three things with both of you agree on. Doesn't happen very often, but it's digital assets, frictionless transfer of digital assets. That's one. Two is 3D immersiveness, AR, VR, and three is pseudonymity or it's like a form of anonymity in the internet. And NFTs also have a part to play in that, because an NFT is essentially your passport, can be your identity, your avatar, your profile picture of the metaverse space. And can you elaborate
totally.
more on
I
that?
think the NFT it's for sure gonna be a sort of digital identity marker, that's for sure. It can be used as like a name, a username, a domain name. There's also like the ENS domain, unstoppable domains. So that's certainly going to be part of the digital identity. I think the real question, and I don't have the answer. It's the real question that arises is, are going to platforms issue their own social standards for what's an avatar and what's what constitutes the digital identity, or are we going to have interoperability and sort of standardized avatar? Like, are we going to have one avatar in the metaverse, or are we going to have one avatar per social app and per virtual world?
I mean, the cool part about NFTs are that theoretically, if you own one avatar, you can transfer it to every single platform.
No, actually, that's one of the challenges here, because if you own an avatar, you can transfer it to one place and it gets stuck there. Of course, you can move it out, but you cannot simultaneously have it in multiple instances.
Yeah.
So that is where you are having new emerging methodologies coming up, like a carbon copying of NFTs, and where an NFT is held in a smart contract and you have carbon copies you can move around. So the metaverse by itself is an amazing concept, but then you're not practically tested the implementation of it. Like, you do have some applications, but we are attending some rooftop parties in NFTs, sorry, in metaverses, but you don't have it functioning where a person wakes up in a day, goes to a metaverse to work, and then goes somewhere else to shop. You don't have that. maybe it'll take a year. But when you have that,
How long until everybody in this room will have their metaverse NFT?
maybe 24 months. I mean, 1 to 2 years, depends, really depends. But I believe it's not going to be long because a lot of large organizations, they're all moving in. And as they all move in, they are going to incentivize people to get into the blockchain to claim something. And people will learn. When you offer reward, people will learn it and they will come in. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, it's true that very unconventional view, but it's true what I'm gonna say. Gamers hate NFTs just because, as you said, for now we're still facing some issues. Like if you're a gamer and you wanna move with your avatar, you would have to pay a transaction for every time you're making your avatar move a little bit. And in the same way, it's really painful when you're like a gamer and you have to pay the transaction fee that's even more expensive than the asset itself. That's like some really painful things. But I'm pretty sure that we have great developers in the ecosystem. So yeah.
So when it comes to the metaverses, the way they function right now,
That's what I wanted to go on, is open versus closed metaverse platforms. It's probably the most important topic that anyone in the entire world needs to think about, but nobody's talking about that.
well, I would say both will exist. And because as much as I believe in decentralization, I believe in the freedom. So if a particular organization and the people in that organization believe that they want to function in a centralized way, they can. If they believe that they can offer freedom to bring in anything that they want and function, great. But if they choose that it has to have a standard, then so be it. Because the blockchain's objective is not to decentralize the whole world and make things messier. It's to give the freedom to people to choose what they want to do. So there will be closed metaverses where you need to conform to particular standards. There'll be open ones where you can bring everything. There'll be ones where you'll have limitations and rules as well.
Closed metaverse is like you have one guy who plays God, and he'll decide what's okay in your life and what's not. That's
Yeah, if you don't like it, just don't log into it. Just don't even use that metaverse and exit. But if there are a group of people who like it, then we cannot stop them.
Yeah, I agree. I think we might end up with something where maybe 3-4 big brands or names control the metaverse. We can also have open metaverses, but what's important is the substack. So the underlying infrastructure is going to be decentralized. So it's very strange and it's paradoxical, but you'll basically have some form of centralization on top of decentralization. So the applications are going to be centralized with some big groups, and then the underlying substack is going to be decentralized. That's what I see.
So even with the metaverse, is one of the biggest challenges that brands or individuals face right now is if you want to go and put up your shop in a metaverse, you need to pay for it. You need to spend money for it. But big brands, very famous brands, they get it for free. Metaverses offer it for free for them so that they bring their audience and they clout in there. So there is still an entry barrier for the common person, common artist, because he cannot get the prime area of exposure. He's just going to get something which is off the track. So these challenges will have to settle itself over the period of time. And
like Snoop Dogg.
yeah.
Yeah. You guys have any more questions, or I totally am blindsided by the time. So.
No, maybe I just want to thank everyone for being here. I really appreciate it, and I'm really glad that things are starting to happen in Dubai, and which is my home. So yeah, and if you have kids, feel free to just have a chat for the hackathon. Yeah, thanks a lot.
No, I think it's really important that kids start educating themselves on this, because it's going to be important for everybody, for all the kids to be educated and take advantage of these opportunities.
I would say if you're in the room listening to all this, and if you're not used an NFT or logged into a metaverse, or if you're not done any of that, just go try it out and make your own judgment call from it. Only when you experience it, you can know what is good, what is not good. If you have kids and you're gonna refer them to it, try it yourself first and see how best you can translate that message to them or help them out. End of the day, this is the future, whether we like it or not. And of course, it's not going to be the same way. It's going to change 1,000 times before it actualizes to what it truly is. But let's be part of that experience. That's what life is. That's what business and anything that we do in this world is. So let's experience while we can.
Enjoy the new metaverse.
Thank you, guys.